I'm Vicki Taylor. I'm the district literacy coach for Jackson County, and I'm in a third grade classroom today, and what I'm going to be doing is modeling Socratic Seminar. So the first thing I want to do is show you the standards I'll be working on, and then I'll explain how we're going to roll that out through Socratic Seminar. All right, the first standard is the Speaking and Listening Standard 1, specifically 1B, which is follow agreed upon rules for discussions. For example, gaining the floor in respectful ways, listening to others with care, speaking one at a time about the topics and texts under discussion. So this is a really big standard that we'll be hitting today. And then RL, which is Literature Standard 1.1, which is ask and answer questions to demonstrate understanding of the text, referring explicitly to the text as the basis for the answers. Now, teachers, we should be doing this standard every time we hit a story in literature. Always, this is kind of like your base level of understanding the story, but with the new standards, the higher you go, it seems like the deeper they go. So this is you're always hitting this standard. This should not be like your major focus. This is just scratching the surface so they understand the story. What we're really going to be hitting hard is distinguish their own point of view from that of the narrator or those of the characters. So we want to get below, we want to get deeper into the story and intentions of the author and the characters. So what I'm going to do today is Socratic Seminar. The students have already read the story, so they're familiar with the story. They have a basic understanding of it, and today we're going to dig deeper. The idea is to give them a debatable question where they could take one side or the other. There really is no right or wrong answer. They just have to state a claim, and then they have to go to the text to dig deep and find support for their answer. So I'm going to give them 10 to 15 minutes to find text evidence to support their answer. Then we're going to come to the circle, which is Socratic Seminar. Everybody's sitting down. I'll go over the rules of Socratic Seminar with them, and it's a student-led discussion. The idea is to teach them how to have a discussion, how to be respectful, how to take turns, and how to validate each other within the discussion. And then after the discussion, they're going to come back and to their seats, and they're going to write their answer with text evidence. And the idea is that students that come to school without a lot of oral language development, this is going to scaffold them to that higher order thinking. So we can't wait to get started. Yeah. Okay, all right, so the castle on Hester Street. What can you tell me? First of all, who are the characters in the story? Yes.
Grandpa, Julie, and Grandma.
Grandpa, Julie, and Grandma. All right. Tell me about Grandpa. Who can tell me about Grandpa? Yes.
He kept making crazy stories about how he was getting to America.
He was making up crazy stories. They were almost fun. I think Grandpa's a little bit creative. Don't you think so? Do you think Grandpa is telling stories because he's trying to be he's making up stories because he's trying to be a bad person?
No. Creative.
Okay, you don't think so? Why do you think he's doing that? Why do you think he's making up the stories?
To make it interesting.
To make it interesting? I think you're right. Okay, can we dig a little bit deeper than that? Yes.
To make it funny.
To make it funny? Maybe he's an entertainer. He just wants to be funny. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a question, and I want you to pick a side. Okay? Like when you're in a courtroom, you're either for it or against it. You have to pick a side. So in the same way, you have to pick a side in this question. All right? Okay, so in your opinion, is it acceptable to tell an untruth or a lie, a little fib, when telling a story? Okay, and we're going to find evidence from the text. Or another way of saying that is it more important to tell the truth or to make your family think well of you? Do you get what you have to do? If you say it's more important to tell the truth, I think it's better to be like Grandma, or do you think it's better to be like Grandpa just to have fun making up a story so his granddaughter will think highly of him? What do you think? Okay, don't say it. You're going to write your answer out. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to find evidence in the text, and then we're going to go on, okay? Dig deep in the story. You have to look for proof in the story. Good job. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to have a discussion. You all are going to have a discussion. Who would like to start the discussion? Who's brave enough to start?
I guess me.
Okay, do you have text evidence already?
A little bit.
Show me in the text. What page?
On page 39.
Okay. What does it say?
They sat quietly for a few minutes. Then Julie's grandpa smiled and whispered to Julie, "Did I ever tell you about that time when Moshe the goat and I sang for President Wilson?"
Okay, I hear what you're saying. You think it's okay for Grandpa to do that. And I would like to add to that I think Grandpa is not really telling the truth just because he wants to make it fun. And let's see, I would like to look at your book for just a second. Grandpa says on page 137, "As soon as I met your grandmother, I wanted to marry her," Julie's grandfather said. "Every night I hired fireflies to fly over her house and spell out, 'Rose, my precious flower, I love you every hour.'" And I think that it's kind of fun for Grandpa to tell his stories because that makes him an interesting person. Does anybody disagree with that? What do you think, Ryan?
It's more important to tell the truth.
Show me where in the text.
I got to that part where I was writing.
Okay, well, what page are you on? What page are you on?
Page 38.
138. Okay. And just read it to me.
Enough is enough, Julie's grandmother said. From now on, I insist that Julie hear only the truth. Grandpa and I had to work even harder to do it all as babies, but we didn't mind. We had something more valuable than jewel crowns and golden baby carriages. We had each other, and we were free to do whatever we wanted. And that's the truth, Rosie dear, Julie's grandfather said. And from now on, that all will pass through my lips.
So why do you think he thinks it's important to tell the truth? I want you to explain that.
Because if you don't, Grandma might get mad.
Okay, that's a good reason. Grandma might get mad. We don't want to make Grandma mad, right? Okay, does anybody agree with that? Do you think Grandma should tell, or you should be like Grandma and tell the truth, or like Grandpa and have fun?
Tell the truth.
Okay, why?
Because it's better to tell the truth than make up stories.
Okay.
If you make up stories, you might make somebody mad.
When you share your feelings, does that make you closer to people
Yeah.
or further away?
Closer.
Does that make you trust a person more? Okay, so would that maybe be a reason why it's important to tell the truth?
Yes,
You think so? Okay, so would that be a reason to be maybe like Grandma? Okay, and what I want you to see, I know that you're not used to doing this, and as you practice more having discussions like this, you'll be bolder about sharing what you think. So you're doing just fine. But what I want you to see is that, you know, it was kind of okay for Grandpa to tell the story the way he did, because he was trying to be fun with his granddaughter. He wasn't trying to be evil by telling a story. But Grandma, you know, I think maybe for Grandma, she wanted her granddaughter to trust her, and so she was really honest. Okay. All right, well, we had an interesting discussion. We've had an interesting discussion today, and what I want you to do now is you're going to go back and I want you to answer the question again. Okay, we've talked about some text evidence, but I want you to either add to your position or maybe you want to take a different side because you're thinking about it differently now. Okay? All right, so go back and let's see how you do.
Okay.
All right. As we did the Socratic Seminar, it became very evident to me that in third grade, students are very cut and dry, and developmentally, it's either right or wrong, black or white. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to change the question a little bit so it's not a moral issue for them about is it right or wrong to tell the truth, because that's not really the issue in the story. It's, you know, is it okay for Grandpa to embellish the story to make it more interesting and fun? He wasn't doing it for an evil reason, so I'm going to adjust it a little bit and see if the kids have an easier time taking a side so that it's not all, yes, it's important to tell the truth. I want them to see both sides. All right, boys and girls, what I'm going to do is when you write your question the second time, when you write the answer, I'm going to change the question a little bit, okay? Because I think it'll be easier for you to write it from a different perspective. So my question to you now is, would you rather tell a story the way Grandma tells it, where every fact is exactly true, or would you rather tell a story the way Grandpa tells it with embellishments to make it more interesting? And then find text evidence to support your answer. As I showed you in the beginning, before we started the lesson, we talked about the speaking and listening standards and the reading literature standards, and we talked about how they need to be able to share their point of view compared to the authors or characters. And with the new standards, everything is integrated. The speaking and listening is integrated with the literature standards. So students need to be able to express their point of view. And I found today that the students could tell you what side they were taking, and they could show you proof in the text, but they had a lot of difficulty articulating why, the reasons why. But once we kind of talked about it and we had that discussion and tried to get a little bit deeper, when they went back to writing, I saw a lot more development of those thoughts, and that's the goal. We want them to be able to articulate how they feel and that their opinions are important, their point of view is important, but they will never be able to write it unless they can articulate it. And so that's the idea. We're trying to get them to say it so that they can turn then and write it. And we should see a growth in their writing.